good afternoon, and you're welcome to Ireland's Weather Channel, bringing you our very first Patreon weather forecast from our new weather studio here at Ireland's Weather Channel HQ. We're delighted to have you on board. We're delighted to unveil these new services. We are, of course, getting used to the equipment, so do bear with us as we explore our way around the wonderful world of weather. And indeed, let's start with a forecast for the week ahead. Now, at the moment, we're going to take a look at the synoptic pressure charts across the Atlantic. And as you can see, Ireland is under the influence of this subtropical air mass coming up from the southwest. So much milder conditions for today, Monday, certainly for tomorrow, Tuesday, and also into Wednesday and Thursday as well, as we keep that southwesterly airflow. Now, there is a little bit of cloud about. There's some rain, as we can see, off the west coast at the moment. That's in relation to these weather fronts as they traipse their way across the Atlantic, demarcating the boundary that is, of course, the jet stream that dictates our weather. And we have quite an active jet stream at the moment, and that's going to be important for later on in the week. If we move ahead to midday tomorrow, we notice that that weather front's a little bit closer tomorrow. We see more in the way of general rain across the country. So it will begin dry and bright in the east and northeast of the country, but even here rain is expected to spread as we go through the day tomorrow. So some outbreaks of rain developing more widely. Also a little bit breezier as well, as we see those isobars are that little bit closer together as well. On Wednesday, we're a little bit farther away from that trough at that moment in time, from that cold front that's off the west coast. So generally speaking, probably better conditions about on Wednesday overall, although we do expect to see some rain once again in the west and southwest of the country. And then as we go on to Thursday is an interesting one and something we need to keep a close eye on. We can see this wave feature here developing off the west coast. Now, that's likely to bring with it, if we go into the afternoon and evening hours, some very heavy rain is expected from that particular system. And if we look at the GFS in particular, we can see the impacts from that. It develops into quite a deepening area of low pressure here, situated to our northwest, so that will bring stronger winds, but also some very heavy falls of rain expected on Thursday in particular, with the likelihood of weather warnings being issued, and we'll keep you posted with that. It's also worth noticing this feature here behind and where that has indeed come from. So if we trace back to Wednesday, that is at that point in time still Hurricane Humberto. So the remains of Hurricane Humberto are making their way towards Ireland. It weakens at that point, but watch as it crosses the jet stream as we get on into Friday. And look at the explosiveness of that, going from potentially 992 hectopascals all the way down to 945 hectopascals, 941. Does it get any deeper? 941 as it passes to the north of Ireland. That is a significant drop in pressure. That would be undergoing what we call bombogenesis, whereby a system drops by 24 millibars in less than a 24-hour period. So if we rewind back, when could we see that system impacting us? Well, the strongest of the winds associated with that system would likely reach the west coast by Friday, certainly so by Friday afternoon, by about 1 o'clock through 4 o'clock. We see its path as it moves in from the Atlantic and it skirts along the northwest coast. So the strongest winds, based on this track of the GFS, will be along parts of the west, into parts and much of Ulster, into parts of the Midlands as well. But of course, there's always uncertainty this far out. If we take a look at the ECMWF model for the same time period, yes, it is still a storm depression. It does bring strong winds, but the centre of that is much farther to our northwest, somewhere between Ireland and Iceland. So quite a difference in terms of the exact placement of that. If we look at the KMNI, we see that that is putting it much further to the southeast. It's a much weaker system. It hasn't quite crossed the jet stream just yet, but that is likely to deepen as we progress on. So for example, if we skip on, we see that it deepens right over us, bringing some unsettling conditions and some stronger winds. If we take a look then as well at as we looked at the European one, let's take a look at the UK Met Office and see what it says. So it doesn't quite show us as far as we want to, but the UK Met Office shows a very deep area of low pressure, 933 hectopascals. We can just about make it out here. It's covering that zone there. So that as well would be quite a strong, potent storm. The GFS is the one that's showing it in its true, I suppose, worst case scenario form at the moment in time. Something we need to keep a very close eye on. Why so? Well, if we take a look at the wind gusts and we go across and we look at our data finder. So if we go down the left hand side here, this is going to allow us to point into a specific area. And if we zoom in on the map as well, so we'll go in here, we'll look at Ireland specifically, and I'll put it out to the west here so you have a better chance of seeing it. But if we take a look at the data finder, let's say as we go through the evening hours, so 7 o'clock, generally speaking across the country, winds in excess of 100 kilometers per hour. At their strongest at that point in time, probably across parts of West Mayo, up over 130 kilometers per hour, 137 around Balmullet. And if we take a look at its strongest core, we can see winds again, possibly just here, I would say, yes, over 140 kilometers per hour at that point in time. So this has the potential to be quite a strong storm. It would be, I still believe it would hold on to the name Humberto, as it is ex-Hurricane Humberto. It's not a hurricane by the time it reaches Ireland, but it's the remains of Hurricane Humberto. So something we need to keep a very close eye on. We'll have more details about that in this afternoon's forecast. Stay tuned for more details. And as always, thank you very much for joining us at Ireland's Weather Channel here on our new home on our Patreon page. If you haven't signed up already, do sign up. And as well, if you know somebody that would love to sign up to our service, please get them to do so. Send them on the link and we'll guide them through the process then. Thank you very much as always. I'll be back this afternoon. Have a great day for now.